I started having feelings in my body that I couldn't control. I woke up, my heart started pounding so hard, I started sweating, and I thought, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack.
We are with Jillian Tedesco, who I absolutely love. She's a fellow St. Louisan with me. And thanks so much for coming today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about growing up.
So I grew up in a town called Akron. My mom and my dad, I grew up in a very loving family. We didn't have much growing up. I grew up in a 2-bedroom house, so I shared a room with my sister. When I think about my childhood, I think about just how easy it was and happy it was.
As you were coming up, moving into your 20s, what's happening?
We moved when I was a senior in high school, which, getting uprooted your senior year in high school is like life ending. I think I went to college for 1 year and then I was like, I'm out of here. I moved to Miami, Florida on a whim, and I started personal training once I got out of high school. I think I was certified by the time I was 18. I didn't stay down in Miami long, and then I ended up moving up here to St. Louis. It's really when I put my roots in and I got into personal training, and within about 2 years, I had to open my own personal training studio with someone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like?
A lot of work, when you're training people, you're one-on-one. It's a lot of energy to give yourself to someone for an hour. So I opened it when I was about 22, and I had a falling out with my partner on my 25th birthday. And I remember we had this huge fight and it forced me to leave. I wanted to leave. And I was like, I cannot go back to that place. I literally walked out of my business. That was just kind of like my world just kind of collapsed. I'd spent the last 3 years sweat equity building this place up and be left to figure out what to do next. I really hit rock bottom. If anybody suffered from anxiety or depression, I'm sure you can relate, but I started having feelings in my body that I couldn't control. So I would shortness of breath and my chest would feel like I have an elephant sitting on it. I remember laying in bed at night and waking up and just being like, I couldn't breathe. And I woke up, my heart started pounding so hard, I started sweating, I had to go to the bathroom, and I thought, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. So I called 911. And the paramedics came, and by that time I had calmed down a little bit. I'm like, I just had a heart attack. So they took me in the ambulance. I'm on the stretcher. They're hooking me up. I remember laying in the bed, and, the nurse came by and she's like, Jillian, we checked your vitals. Everything's fine, hon. You're great. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not okay. And she put her hand on me in the bed, and I would say this would be my pivotal moment. She goes, did something traumatic happen to you recently? And I just remember thinking, how does she know? I go, yeah, I lost my business. And she goes, oh, honey, you just had a panic attack. And I'm thinking, I don't freak out. And I was really embarrassed. I felt a lot of shame, and I felt worthless, and I felt like a loser. And I just remember thinking, this isn't who I am. Why am I feeling like this? And that moment is when I made the decision in my mind, okay, you've got to change.
How did you get out of where you were? What happened next?
I just remember thinking God, if you're real, help me. I had to do some soul searching. I remember I said, okay, I'm going to commit myself to getting in a positive state of mind, because I wasn't. I was kind of negative. And when I look back now, I can't really remember that chunk of time right after I lost the business, but I can remember what I did when I had that wake up moment. Mm-hmm. I started journaling. Would write down all my feelings, and I was just getting them out. And I wrote down my anger. I wrote down who I wanted to be. I expressed who I believe I was, the things I loved about myself, the things I wanted to change about myself. Where I make myself cry every day, just getting those words out on paper. I spent a lot of time in prayer. I was creating the daily discipline, which is something I still practice to this day. Mm-hmm. So that's the alone time. I do a lot of prayer. I do journal, or it could be reading. So it's some type of learning. I try to make that time for me, and that kind of keeps me grounded. It's my foundation. And from there, what was presented to me was get back to what you love.
Get back to what you love.
Get back to what you love. Because when I was in my business at the time, I always had a passion for nutrition and food. Because when I'd work with my clients, what I would try to do was help them make a lifestyle change with the way they were eating. Because if I was truly going to change their physique and help them feel better and look better, they had to change what they were putting in their body. When I lost my business, I did take a few of my clients who followed me, and I thought, why don't I make their food for them on the weekend? This will bring me joy. And that's how it started. So it was kind of like, let me shift my unhappy negativeness to doing something that makes me happy, that's helping people. And I got to express my creativity through creating new menus every single week. I got to go grocery shopping. I was at the farmer's market. I was learning all this stuff about food. And within, maybe a year or two, I had several clients I had enlisted in culinary school. So I was training during the day, going to school at night, and running this business over the weekends.
600 meals on a Saturday. How did that happen?
It was a lot of logistics. It started on Tuesday. I'd write a menu. It was 12 items on a menu, which I changed my menu every week. I would email it out to my customer base, and then you would choose how many of each one you wanted with a minimum of 10, because I was delivering it to your house.
Sure.
Thursday, I spent time reaching out to these people, and literally I would hustle another 40 orders in. So then I had to create a grocery list. Now, if you can imagine, this is probably one of my most proudest things. Each thing had a measurement because everything was portion controlled, so down to the ounce. So I had to figure out by what I wanted to yield how much I needed to purchase, because there's food loss involved.
Of course.
All of my grocery lists were down to the pound and the ounce of how much item to get. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were hard. They were hard. I mean, those were 16-hour days sometimes. I want to help people change the way they think about food and nutrition. It's amazing when people can make the decision for themselves and really say, I'm going to live a healthier lifestyle. And, Fit Flavors has just been a vehicle and a great resource to help educate me and get me there.
Any business owner, especially women, I feel like we don't stop and celebrate a little bit, but just think about that from where you were then to where you are today, and millions of dollars in sales. That's such an accomplishment. And it's really cool to see that transition into really finding what you love and helping people with food. But it's really cool to see the success that you've had.
Thank you.
So. These women's stories are so impactful. Arras Sisters creates opportunities for women.